You know how some stories just stick with you? The ones that kind of crawl under your skin and stay there? Well, today, we're diving into one of America's weirdest and honestly most terrifying urban legends. It's a story that starts with a crashed asylum bus and ends with a strange figure in a rabbit suit haunting a lonely bridge. This is the legend of the Bunny Man. Chilling, right? That one line has been giving people nightmares for decades. But to really get what it means and where this totally bizarre story even came from, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. So the roots of this whole horror story are planted deep in Fairfax County, Virginia. We're talking way back in the early 1900s, when a local controversy over a nearby asylum basically set the stage for a legend that just refuses to die. Okay, so here's how the legend goes. It all kicked off when a transport bus from this recently shut down asylum supposedly crashed. In all the chaos, the patients just scattered, disappearing into the thick Virginia woods. A huge manhunt started, and one by one, they were all found. All of them, except for one guy. He just vanished. After the search was finally called off, this really eerie quiet fell over the area. But, it didn't last long. Pretty soon, people started noticing strange, disturbing signs that something was very, very wrong out there in those woods. It actually started with rabbits. People started finding half-eaten rabbit carcasses all over the place. And then came the really gruesome stuff. Skinned rabbits found hanging by their feet from a concrete overpass. That spot, the Colchester Overpass, got a new name real quick. Bunny Man Bridge. And that's when the legend took its darkest turn. The story was that any teenagers who dared to show up there at midnight would end up just like those rabbits. For decades, that's all it was, a spooky story, right? A local legend to tell around a campfire. But then, in the 1970s, two incredibly bizarre real-life encounters happened that made people think maybe the Bunny Man was a whole lot more than just a myth. So the first official report came from a young couple. They were parked on some dark road way after midnight when they heard something, shouting off in the distance. But before they could even figure out what it was, the threat was right there. Suddenly, crash! The sound of their back window just exploding. They panicked, slammed the car in gear, and sped off. And as they looked back, they saw it. A big figure dressed in a white rabbit suit, just standing there in the dark, watching them go. Now you'd think that would be the end of it, some weirdo in a costume, a one-off thing. But nope. Just 2 weeks later, the Bunny Man showed up again, and this time he was way more aggressive. Okay, so a security guard is doing his rounds at a new construction site, and he sees a figure on the porch of an unfinished house. As he gets closer, he realizes it's a man in that same white bunny suit, but this time he's holding an axe. The guard calls out, trying to see what's going on, but the response he got was not what he expected. The guy in the bunny suit didn't even go for the guard. Instead, he just flew into a rage and started furiously chopping at a wooden porch post with his axe, screaming about trespassers. He told the guard to get off the property, and you can bet the guard did not stick around to argue. So where does that leave us? On one hand, we have this terrifying piece of folklore, and on the other, we have two documented, real-world sightings. Are they connected at all, or is one just a twisted version of the other? This is really where the story splits into. The legend tells us about some kind of ghostly patient who escaped from an asylum. But the reality, the stuff from actual police reports, is about a very real, very angry person in a bunny suit who gets violent when people are on what he thinks is his territory. The one thread connecting them? An axe-wielding dude in a rabbit costume. And then, just as mysteriously as he showed up, he was gone. After those two incidents back in 1970, the Bunny Man sightings just stopped. Nobody was ever arrested, and the identity of the person in that rabbit suit is still a total mystery. So what's the real story? Well, the whole asylum bus crash thing is almost definitely just fiction. But that axe-wielding man in the bunny suit? He was very, very real. The most popular theory is that a real person who knew the local legend decided to just become the Bunny Man for his own weird reasons, and in doing so, he blurred that line between myth and reality forever. To this day, people still drive out to Bunny Man Bridge on Halloween night, hoping to catch a glimpse of the legend. The sightings might have stopped decades ago, but the story is more powerful than ever. And it leaves us with one final chilling question. If he was real once, who's to say he won't be again?